problem of we're largely solving the problem of traceability and sustainability across the food and agri supply chain. We work with several enterprises. We provide with our technology platform, we help solve these problems. So when we talk about sustainability, I think what we're essentially talking about is helping enterprises implement initiatives that will eventually help us build a safer planet, responsible planet, and so on and so forth. Right? It's about taking care of the environment that we live in. Therefore, one of the top agenda today for any of the businesses today, if you see medium to enterprises, maybe is to invest and build and support a sustainable business model, creating business models that are sustainable in nature in their long term. Therefore, you see a lot of them having net zero goals, sustainability goals, ESG goals, and so on and so forth. In that, they take several initiatives, and that's what we help them integrate. We started off with a few of these use cases back 5 years ago. We started off with something called farm to fork traceability, where the whole idea was to leverage technologies like blockchain to ensure that we are able to bring multiple participants across the supply chain onto a network and help them exchange auditable data and credible data with each other, right? There are our agri supply chains are complex, so we will talk about it in a while. But generally, just to give you a quick overview there, the whole idea was about enabling interaction between multiple supply chain partners who have not necessarily been connected with each other, and enabling a trusted transaction to go through with them, right from production of the food to aggregation of the food to manufacturing, distribution, retailing, and consumption, right? That's one of the goals. One led to the other as we were working on several use cases. The next one is we saw a lot of our customers leveraging our platform for substantiating their sustainability initiatives itself. When we talk about sustainability initiatives, it is not just about building traceability. It is about ensuring that they are able to create their businesses focused around ensuring that there is environment that has been taken care of, communities have been taken care of, people have been taken care of, and soil has been taken care of, biodiversity is taken care of, and so on and so forth, right? So that's the second pillar I'm talking about, where a lot of the initiatives that the enterprises today take regarding their sustainability, it's again about data. They have to have data in place, transparent data, trustable data, for which they can substantiate the actions they take towards their sustainability or net zero goals. Third pillar that we address very well is something called carbon farming, or working with clients that are in the business of implementing projects that will ensure either there is or that will ensure reduction in GHG emissions, avoidance of GHG emissions. Right, various actions. It could be in agriculture, following a regenerative agriculture model for production of crops, which will ensure that there is less GHG emissions that happen. Or maybe following methodologies like DSR or AWD method of rice cultivation, where water management practices are such that it emits less methane during the crop production cycle, and so on and so forth. Right. And if you move to the next pillar, which is around compliance, there are so many compliances that a lot of internationally that are evolving because all international organizations are aligned towards the net zero goals. Right, everything around climate. People want to ensure that we are conserving the planet, and so that it is livable for other generations to come. With respect to that, there are many legislations and compliances that are being rolled out. One example of that is European Union deforestation-free legislation, which means for some of the producers, some of the commodities, if they are either exported out of Europe or imported into Europe, it has to ensure that it has not resulted in deforestation. I'll again talk a little more about it as we move along, but these are large areas that we are addressing through the platform. The platform itself is this. It's a combination of a mobile, offline first, multilingual mobile application that can be used at the farm level to track farmer registrations, to tracking the farmlands, to crop management, to all the way till procurement of the crop. And we've got a web application as well that essentially helps us deal with the post-harvest journey of a produce. Then we have comprehensive capability to integrate the system with other enterprise applications, be it IoT devices, remote sensing services, or other ERP systems, and so on and so forth. And eventually, system has a comprehensive analytics and reporting, deep analytics, and a reporting engine that will help us derive actionable insights. Though we started off back 5 years ago with agri-produce, but I think over a period of time, we have actually diversified into food as a horizontal rather than agriculture as a vertical, what we do. All of this is orchestrated on a blockchain platform. Why blockchain? Maybe I have some slides to talk about the blockchain itself. Maybe after the first round of presentation, maybe I'll try and cover it if the time permits. But largely, the reason why we're leveraging technologies like blockchain is to create a connected supply chain. If you see, traditionally, the supply chains existed in isolation. They have not really existed in a connected manner. When I talk about connected manner, what I essentially do is there has never been an ecosystem where each of the supply chain partners are extending the boundaries of their supply chain and sharing more information democratically with other party, right? That's traditionally not happened, especially cross-border supply chains. What technologies like blockchain allows to do is to build consensus-led supply chain network, which allows different actors like farmers to producers to processors, distributors, retailers, and so on and so forth, who can come on to a network, participate in an initiative where data is more democratically shared with each other, thereby creating trust and accountability for each of the partners. That's precisely the way we use blockchain. And other benefits of blockchain is obviously participation in the network with a consensus model, to immutability of the data, to having a very comprehensive ability to audit trail the data, to ensuring that it is distributed, right? So your data is distributed between the multiple actors. So those are places where we sort of leverage blockchain. And our aspiration is to create India's largest food network, right? Not just India, but we are a global company. But at least India, if we can do this in India, I think we would have achieved significant success there. Right. So just moving on to the sustainability and carbon part of project, that I was talking about. If you see, today, many of the GHG reduction projects, which are either focused on carbon sequestration, which means you are putting in active actions, relevant actions in place that will ensure carbon dioxide is actually trapped in the soil and not available out there in the atmosphere, right? These are actions to essentially protect and conserve natural ecosystem so that the carbon dioxide is removed from the atmosphere and is sequestered in soil. That's called sequestration, for example. Or there are some initiatives itself, the actions itself, that are aimed at just ensuring that carbon dioxide is not even emitted, which is a classic example of that could be ensuring clean cooking, where the wood timber fuel is less used. so that there is less emission of carbon dioxide, there is less deforestation, right? If a village household, a rural household, or a tribal household is using wood to cook the food, or wood to boil the water, essentially you can reduce the amount of wood they use by providing clean cooking stoves or better technologies that can handle clean water, so that the consumption of wood and so thereby emission of carbon dioxide is reduced, right? So these are called GHG avoidance interventions. Let's say dairy, for example. Dairy, one of the biggest problem that dairy has is the methane emissions, right? That happens in dairy. For example, we work with some of the initiatives where our clients are altering the feed to the dairy, to animals, where the methane emissions can be reduced, and those are tracked on a platform. So they're tracked on a they're measured, digitally measured, reported, and submitted for verifying agencies, so that the action that was taken is substantiated, right? So it is about collecting the baseline, continuously monitoring and tracking the KPIs, and finally reporting the KPIs for verification and auditing purposes. The projects like this, which are done, eventually conclude in carbon credits. You may have heard of carbon credits. So carbon credits are as a result of actions that have been taken to conserve the natural ecosystems, right? Leveraging many different methodologies that I talked about. And eventually someone needs to, now earlier in the traceability of food, we talked about tracing the food back to its origin. Now we are talking about tracing this carbon credit back to its origin. How did it get created? What were the interventions done? And being able to track that and establish transparency in that creation. That is the one of the areas where we're leveraging a platform. It's the same platform, but use case is different. So now very quickly jumping into deforestation facts. Like I said before, the 20% of the GHG emissions today that happen globally is because of deforestation. By far, forests sequester more carbon than any other initiative naturally. But if you're deforesting, that's something which is naturally there. Obviously, your absorption of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere will go down. According to statistics, 15.6 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide are sequestered per year by forests. That's one big part, right? And if you also see 80% of the world's terrestrial biodiversity is dependent on forest. We're chopping down the forest. We are killing the biodiversity. Biodiversity has a direct impact on climate change, right? Over 10% of the world's forest today has been lost to deforestation. There are different reasons why the deforestation happens, right? So it could be wildfire to poaching to many other commodity deforestation or whatever. There are different reasons. So it is 10% of the forests have been lost to do, because it is intended deforestation that's happening. Within that, consumers like I and you, who consume certain products on a daily basis, are contributing to 75% of the commodity deforestation, of the deforestation. These are led by consumers, I mean, to meet consumer demands. And which are those very largely identified, very big identified commodities that lead to deforestation? These are the one: cattle, I mean, beef, meat, essentially, timber or wood, soy, cocoa, coffee, rubber, and palm oil. These are resulting in significant deforestation, loss of biodiversity, loss of forests, and so on and so forth, right? Therefore, what European Union has done is that they said anyone that's dealing with this product, either these products directly or the derivatives of this product, if they are either producing them in Europe or anywhere in Europe, or if they're exporting or exporting this to Europe, will have to showcase that these products have not been linked with deforestation, right? This is called European Union Deforestation Regulation or the legislation. Therefore, when someone needs to send, let's say, a tire manufacturer, we work with a very large tire manufacturer, one of the world's largest. If they have to, if they have to send the tires they've manufactured to Europe, they cannot just simply send those tires. They'll have to showcase that the entire supply chain, which involves natural rubber, production of natural rubber, which is an agriculture commodity, was not in the deforested area. So we do that, all of those things using satellite remote sensing, identify the farm plots which are compliant or non-compliant, and also the way it was handled. Natural rubber was received at the manufacturing facility, and the manufacturing facility handled it responsibly so that they didn't mix non-compliant rubber with compliant rubber and all of that stuff, and eventually delivering a product, let's say these 1,000 tires to European Union with the right information. This again is a traceability. This again is a classic use of traceability, connected supply chain, blockchain, and so on and so forth. Those are things that we do. This is just an example of how deforestation can be identified. If there is a farm plot or a plantation, let's say this is rubber plantation, where there is some deforestation since 2011, system can, through the remote sensing, can identify and say that anything that's grown somewhere here is a non-compliant commodity. Some snapshots of how our product looks like. Like I said before, it's a combination of mobile, web, remote sensing, APIs, and so on and so forth. This is just a way of how farm plots can be plotted, and as soon as you start plotting it, it'll say if it's in deforestation area, whatever. Then you can send this polygon over to our remote sensing engine, which will identify several things. I'll talk about it in a bit. Then also tracking all the crop practices, package of practices on the ground, including sowing to planting, so land preparation to crop protection activities to pest management, so on, disease management, so on and so forth. All of that, them can be nutrition activities, etc., can be tracked and traced through the platform, through the mobile app. Then these are examples of how system can provide anomalies on vegetative indices to EVIs, to how the crop has been over a period, over a time series, how the vegetative conditions of the farm plots have been changing, and the red ones where you see are the ones where there is no good vegetation, and the green is where there is good vegetation. Sorry, yeah, all of that something that can be done, and then you can also analyze land use change and the cover crops that are grown, the peripheral crops and stuff like that. System also has a lot of dashboard that will allow us to analyze data, slice and dice data, make meaning out of the data. Anyway, we work with several customers. I talked about both in India and outside of India. These are some of the customers that we work with. We don't directly work with farmers. Our model is B2B. We sell our software product to, let's say, Olam Agro or MTR Food or Wazir Sultan Tobacco Company or Jayanti Foods, where they directly work with farmers, where they implement our technology platform. Right. So like I said before, right from farm mapping to crop planning and so on and so forth. We work with companies like Growcoms, which is exporting spices, to IFF, which is world's largest florals and fragrances company. You may have heard of a company called Dehat in India. Then we work with Organic India. We work with Government of Kerala for traceability of banana, Government of Telangana for seed traceability. We work with Nestle, several carbon project developers, like I said before, I was talking about it. Then for compliances like EUDR, with including coffee, cocoa, rubber, and so on and so forth. So depending on different objectives, outcomes that our customers want, they leverage our platform in different ways. So for some, it is helping in adherence to the regulatory compliances. To some, it is helping in achieving sustainability goals. For some, it's helping them achieve overall reduction in the GHG emissions. To someone who's looking to improve the consumer engagement by showcasing better transparency on the product, for with some essentially reducing the food wastage and so on and so forth. These are multiple benefits or co-benefits that we deliver to our customers. Largely, this is what I wanted to cover as part of how what we do and how our platform helps in multiple use cases. Any specific topic I'm happy to address, or happy to take any questions at this point in time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Srivatsa, for the detailed presentation. Now I'll take up some questions.
Yeah.
Few are the basic questions. Okay. So the first question is, can you explain how blockchain technology works in the context of food supply chains?
Sure. So I will maybe share my screen again. I want to
Yeah.
possibly run you through very quickly um, what maybe a 101 of blockchain, right? So so if you see what blockchain is a technology, right? So essentially, what is it? It is if you just go back, and let's, even before talking about what a blockchain is, let's go back a few decades ago. We all know there was a database. What was database doing? It has ability to store data in either structured or unstructured manner. Back in those days, it was structured manner. And we had the advent of internet. Then individual databases which were stored in their individual in isolation. With the power of internet, it was created into a network. So database now became connected database, or a database which could talk to one another, right? Then they were still there in some physical locations. But if you see, with the advent of cloud computing, they all started virtually residing somewhere. You no longer have to have your servers, your heavy racks, and so on and so forth. You can create a database on the cloud, and then you can start using it. So that gives us the ability to cloud computing. So if you see, that's how technology has evolved. And now we are talking about blockchain. Essentially, blockchain is a combination of many of these things. It has evolved over a period of time. There was data in isolation, then data became digital data, then digital data became shareable data, then shareable data went on cloud, right? So now there is a ability for us to access this data very fairly in a network. That's what blockchain is. So again, blockchain is often mistaken for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just an implementation of a blockchain. It's a cryptocurrency. We have nothing to do with cryptocurrency. For example, the use case that we have put has nothing to do with Bitcoin, nothing to do with cryptocurrency. Just that cryptocurrency also is using blockchain for transaction. We are also using blockchain for supply chain transaction. That's the basic difference. Right? So just quickly coming back to what blockchain is simply a database or a ledger, like I said, right? The way it is different from others is it is distributed across the network. Everyone has a copy. The moment you write something on your ledger, I will give you an example subsequently, but assume that you write something on your notebook that's available for everybody to see. Predominantly the one that you want everybody to see. And whatever you write on your ledger, it will automatically be synced with everybody who is in the network, right? And the properties of blockchain are such that once you have write something, you can't delete it. You can alter it, but altered trail exists. But then you can't just simply go out and delete whatever you have written. So that some of those are powerful features. Then it's very quickly coming back to, we talked about ledger, right? So let's say there is a person who wants to communicate something with the recipient, right? They can speak it out, or they can actually write, let's say I'm someone who has a ledger, a diary with me. I have some private information I don't necessarily want it to be shared with everybody, and there is some public information I'm okay for everybody to know. Or rather, the rules of the network is that you've identified what are those public information, and that must be shared by everybody in the common interest, right? So, for example, product, quantity, certifications, production locations, etc., etc. These are all the attributes of a particular agriculture commodity or a product that will define its authenticity, which must be known by everybody. Whoever is buying it, receiving it, they should know, but not necessarily the price at which this guy procured. That is not none of his business. He need not necessarily know that. Therefore, such data will go to something called private data. So what blockchain allows you to do is create both public data sets and private data sets, and then share this with a network. So when you talk about network, it's not just between one to one. Essentially, what blockchain is, it's about a team sport, right? It's you are in it with a team spirit. It solves the core problem of where organizations want to share data. They don't want data to be held by one person. As all of them, they don't want only one person to know all the data and be just he be being the custodian of the data, because then there is chances for people, incentive for people to manipulate that data. But if you put this data in a fashion that it is shared with everybody, that creates trust, right? That creates trust and efficiency in the peer-to-peer network. When we talk about peer-to-peer network, it is one peer to other peer to the other peer. You know that, look, I'm not being shortchanged. I know that this is the data which is democratically available for everybody. That's exactly what a blockchain does. It will take your individual ledger, ensure that you are working in a network with people that also have equal expectations, both for taking the data and giving the data. It is not that I only keep taking, but I don't give anything back to the community, right? So you create a network of companies through blockchain technology, where you agree upon who are all going to be participants on this network. You will also do rules of the game to say that these are my common data that each one of us should exchange with each other. That is non-negotiable. Yeah, private data, you keep your private data within yourself. You don't share it, right? And that's what blockchain solves. The way it puts the data is blockchain has a concept of the transactions on the block, right? A block consists of several transactions. Each and every transaction, let's say creation of a farmer, creation of a crop, creation of a harvest, all of them are individual transactions. They're going into one block. And in blockchain, data is stored as connected blocks. You can't, unless this block knows what is its previous block and what is its next block, this block cannot get created. So technically, you can't insert, manipulate the data, insert something which is not valid. It will complain, right? So in theory, you cannot necessarily put something in between without knowing the previous and the future blocks. The way it just works, again, this is slightly more technical. I will quickly get into. I've briefly talked about how it works in the supply chain scenario, but I'll quickly jump into it. A user makes a request that goes into a network. It is validated based on certain rules. Once the rules are met, transaction is complete. You register a transaction. For transaction to complete, you gain a consensus from the network. Once a consensus is established, it links, it knows which block it has to go into, and then that writes transaction is written to a block, and that block is shared with the entire network. That's how it works. There are different implementations of blockchain, to private blockchain, to public blockchain, and so on and so forth. Maybe we'll discuss that some other time. We are using a private blockchain, which provides these benefits like permanency, decentralized ledger, immutability, audit trail, and so on and so forth. There are several blockchain frameworks also, right? We use something called Hyperledger Fabric. There have been several. This list is still old. I'm sure there are a lot many more right now. So typical use cases for the food and agriculture is traceability that we're doing, sustainability and climate that we're doing. We've also done something around agri financing, where there are different nodes of the financiers. Let's say farmers, input providers, farmers, FPOs, buyers. All of them come together, share a common data, and banker, so to say. So a banker is essentially making credit access to credit available based on the data that's available to everybody in the node, based on the data that's available on system like that. So those are some of the use cases. I will just jump a few and to see if I can walk you through a few use cases. Maybe I'll quickly walk you through one use case where we work with a client called TechnoServe. And TechnoServe works with over 3,000 farmers in the Araku Valley area, tribal farmers that grow coffee, right, through 7 FPOs. The whole idea is that all of these farmers are digitized on our platform. They grow coffee using natural farming methods, regenerative agriculture methods. They grow farming without using chemicals and pesticides, right? And then the coffee that is grown by the farmers is procured by FPOs. FPOs have a central processing unit where they procure berries from the farmers, and they process berries into raw coffee, and raw coffee is sold to coffee brands through TechnoServe, who is a resource institution, global resource institution, very well known. Through them, they are orchestrating, they are helping all of these FPOs and farmers on the ground, where there is a responsible procurement that happens. Then the coffee brands, it could be either brands or coffee roasters and so on and so forth, who will cure the coffee, who will roast the coffee, and then eventually make coffee to the consumer, which becomes traceable on the platform, right? So, for example, let's say there is coffee that packet, something like this. It has a QR code, and it'll tell you very clearly where is the coffee coming from. So these are some of the use cases. Similarly, there is a use case that we've implemented with a company called Milk Mantra in Orissa, where dairy farmer pours the milk that gets collected at the collection center. Milk gets aggregated at the bulk milk chilling centers, and then it goes to the plant, and at plant milk gets manufactured into multiple products, and each of those products would have traceability. So I'll yeah, and you can check the complete traceability on where was the milk collected from, how fresh the milk is, when was it collected, when was it processed, when was it stored, so on and so forth can all be established. So I'll stop here, but these are some of the use cases that we've implemented using blockchain.
Okay. So next question, what are the key benefits of using blockchain traceability in the food industry?
Yeah, like I said, I think that is something that I've already covered as part of my initial thought. So fundamental problem is about transparency in data, right? So today supply chains are not connected with each other. You always have dependent, you only thing that you know is what your upstream is saying. You don't know what happens to one beyond your upstream, right? You're dependent on one upstream and one downstream. Therefore, you don't have fair access to data, common data. Essentially, technologies like blockchain will solve that by building a supply chain which is connected and and exchanging data more democratically with each other without necessarily depending on a third party.
Okay. Yeah. How does blockchain improve transparency and accountability in food supply chains?
Okay, some of it covered. So each and every actor in the supply chain has to is responsible for putting their data onto the ledger. And when you have final traceability, then you know that this is not a claim that Arthya is doing, or a middleman is doing. It is a claim that let's say is coming from a farm producer company or from a farmer himself. So because independent nodes in the supply chain put this data on the network, it creates better exchanging of data and better transparency. That's how it means. because earlier you don't know who is in your network in the first place. Then it is then only point of contact for you is you have to just believe the guy who sold this produce to you. Now that is it is not the way. Now you know exactly who was the producer, where was it stored, where was it milled, how long was it stored, etc. So therefore that significantly increases trust in the supply chain. You know that you don't have to be just dependent on one person who you think collects is the custodian of the data.
Okay. What challenges do companies face when implementing blockchain for traceability?
So I think the one of the biggest challenges again, it is not it is not just about implementing blockchain for their supply chain, right? It is about implementing a business application. Fundamentally, what we all have to understand is blockchain is just a technology. If you just give this technology, you can't even give this technology simply to somebody. It has to be encompassed into a business application, whether it is a mobile application or web application or whatever it is. Right? There is nothing like a blockchain application that you give it to a farmer and say, farmer, here is your blockchain, use it, right? That's not how it works. So you give a mobile application to field officers or farmers to say that, look, capture this data. I want this set of data to be captured. I want to know who you are, where is your farm, what crops are you growing, when are you growing, how are you growing. You have to capture it through an application, and that application writes this data back to the blockchain so that data is all secured. Now, this data that is written to the ledger is available for other participants in the network, so that they can build trust on that, right? So that's how essentially blockchain gets used. So some of the typical challenges that organizations face is there is no good blockchain is a bit of a complex technology, right? They may need a bit more technology orientation in the companies to be able to adopt run their own nodes and stuff like that. And also, I think most importantly, it's about creating blockchain must not be implemented just because you want to implement a technology. You have to have a very clear uh, you know business value defined, that if I do this, this is what I will get, right? Therefore, I will implement. Thirdly, one of the challenges again, getting their suppliers, all of their suppliers aligned, so that you can get everybody on the network. If one of them goes missing, the sort of chain breaks there. So convincing your suppliers both downstream and upstream is very important to achieve initiatives like this. That's where I would say.
Okay. Yeah. Can you provide examples of successful blockchain implementations in the food supply chain?
I've already talked about the use cases that I talked about Milk Mantra, the use case that I talked about, coffee. They are the implementations actually.
Okay. And how does blockchain help in combating food fraud and ensuring food safety?
I think these are repeated questions. I've covered this over the network. The way, essentially, because you know who produced the food, where was it stored, where was it processed, who distributed it, how long was it each and every place, etc. There is so much information that you know about the way food has traveled, the chain of custody that changes over a period of time. Therefore, it adds to food safety. It adds to reduction in food wastages. You know exactly which product is expiring and which must be which has better shelf life. But because your data is all organized, not just organized, it's also shared with everybody. Yeah, that's the response. Yeah. Sorry, is there a question?
Sorry, yeah, I was on mute. I was in mute. So, what are the cost implications for small and medium enterprises adopting blockchain technology?
Yeah, it is no different from how you take any other software. You want to go sign up for using software like ERP system like SAP or Oracle or Microsoft or Salesforce or Zoho or whatever. It is similar to that. It is no different. For example, we all offer our application as a cloud-based application, so it is in the SaaS software as a service model. Cost really depends on one depends on scale, depends on supply chain and so on and so forth, but it's no different from adopting any other new software.
Okay. And how does blockchain integrate with the other technologies such as IoT, AI to enhance traceability?
Yeah, I think it's a very important part to do that. For example, through APIs, very easy. We integrate with remote sensing engines to we integrate with IoT devices like weighing scales to quality analyzers, milk quality analyzers, to moisture meters, for example, which can emit data automatically and so on and so forth. All of them through APIs. Really, that's how it gets integrated.
Okay. And what are the regulatory considerations when using blockchain for food traceability?
Currently, there is no regulatory framework as such for implementing blockchain. Nobody is saying you have to have blockchain for your food safety. Um, but what needs to be done, like I said, it's all about bringing a network together. Probably there has to be a regulatory framework to ensure that anyone that's involved in the food supply chain must be on a network like this to ensure that there is um, data democracy that is created. But right now, there is no regulatory framework to say that implement blockchain. Blockchain is a technology that one can adopt, if that makes sense. But nobody is saying you have to have blockchain for this particular thing.
Okay. And how can farmers and producers benefit from this solution?
Yeah, so it really depends on how their supply chain is organized. Again, I would not never make a claim that just because there is a blockchain, farmers will start getting better price. It is really not just about technology. It is really about how do you leverage technology in a connected manner. You may have captured all the data about production, etc., farmers, so on and so forth on a blockchain ledger. If they don't eventually get access to market for the produce, then it becomes a useless technology, right? So if they can't market it better, for example. So today, uh, just because there is blockchain, it doesn't mean that they get better market linkages. You still have to have somebody helping farmers to get better market linkages. But where blockchain will clearly help is, look, before there's this technology, I was just giving you produce which had you don't even know whether it is coming from me as a farmer, right? So with blockchain, we are saying we are shipping these products with more information, more relevant information. Therefore, that must demand better prices. Eventually, it has to translate over to better prices for the farmers. Not just for the farmers, I would say better prices for the entire supply chain and obviously to the farmers also. If that is done by the implementing agency, then it becomes valuable input for the farmers.
Okay. So I think now we have the last question. What future trends do you foresee in use of blockchain in food supply chains?
Yeah, so pretty much which we are looking at a lot of it, right? So though only it was originally it's just started with traceability. Now we see a lot of customers using. So again, It's all about data. So it is about creating data, harnessing data for multiple use cases. So as I was talking about, we have farm to fork traceability to carbon, creating the legitimacy of the carbon credit is what blockchain gets used. Blockchain will potentially become a tool for marketing, let's say carbon credits, or any marketplaces, for example, can start using it. And also for deforestation that we talked about, and so on and so forth. I think the technology itself will evolve into areas where very clearly there is a requirement of authentic data authenticity, data verifiability, data auditability, data transparency, whichever requires. I think blockchain becomes a de facto technology, especially if the data is coming from multiple sources of data, which I think will continue. The world is moving towards aggregation of data from multiple resources, multiple sources. That's where I think blockchain becomes a very key technology, which can ensure and protect data that's coming from multiple sources and enhance the overall value for the supply chain.
Okay, so now we have the last question. How can blockchain help in building consumer trust in food products?
So simple again, like I talked about the coffee example I gave. If someone claims that this coffee is grown in the valley of Araku at 2,000 miles above the sea level, nobody will believe. That is just making a statement. Right? That's just another marketing gimmick. But if someone gives them ability to scan a QR code, for example, know exactly when it was grown, where it was grown, when was it hulled, when was it cured, when was it packed, that becomes consumer trust. What were the certification that are associated with it? What type of farming was followed in production of this coffee? Then that increases consumer trust. Similar to the milk mantra case study that I talked about, which is again just buying milk randomly, or buying milk and knowing how fresh is the milk. That's how the technologies like this can enhance the value of consumer trust. Yeah, that's
Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, Mr. Srivatsa. So now we have come to end of question round. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, we'd like to thank you for a very detailed presentation and answering all the questions in depth. And I also like to thank my editorial team for sharing the questions. The meeting will now be closed.
all right. Thank you so much. Okay.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Bye.